Proverbs 15. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise commends knowledge, but the mouth of the fool gushes folly. The eyes of the Lord are everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good. The tongue that brings healing is a tree of life. Another tree of life imagery there. So the tongue that brings healing now is a tree of life. Longing fulfilled was a tree of life. Where was the other one? The fruit of the righteous was a tree of life. That's how we can eat of the tree of life today in the present. The tongue that brings healing is a tree of life, but a deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. A fool spurns his father's discipline, but whoever heeds correction shows prudence. The house of the righteous contains great treasure, but the income of the wicked brings them trouble. The lips of the wise spread knowledge, not so the hearts of fools. The Lord detests the sacrifices of the wicked, but the prayer of the upright pleases him. Now we're going to get to this concept again as we get into the prophets. The wicked people of Israel still offered sacrifices. It was a major part of their culture. That's because they were wicked doesn't mean they weren't going to the temple and offering sacrifices. Many of them still were. But these sacrifices were detestable to the Lord, and we're going to read about that a lot as we get into the prophets. The Lord detests the way of the wicked, but he loves those who pursue righteousness. Stern discipline awaits him who leaves the path. He who hates correction will die. Death and destruction are Sheol and Abaddon. These are Hebrew words behind death and I don't know how I pronounce them. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing them right or not. But death is Sheol and destruction is Abaddon. At least that's how I pronounce them. But I don't speak Hebrew, so I'm not sure if that's a correct pronunciation or not. I'm sorry to those, for all those who do speak Hebrew and know the correct pronunciation, and if that's not it, I do apologize. I just don't know. Lie open before the Lord, how much more the hearts of men. So God can go all the way in to the gates through the gates of Sheol and into destruction. If he can do that, then how much more can he see into our hearts and know what we're thinking and planning? A mocker resents correction, but he will not consult the wise. A happy heart makes the face cheerful, but heartache crushes the spirit. The discerning heart seeks knowledge, but the mouth of a fool feeds on folly. All the days of the oppressed are wretched, but the cheerful heart has a continual feast. Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth with turmoil. Better a meal of vegetables where there is love than a fattened calf with hatred. Now, fattened calves were a feast. You didn't have fattened calves too many times in your life. Probably plenty of them never did have fattened calves in their lives. So you better eat, better to have a little bit, your crops and your vegetables that sustain you day to day if you have love with those you eat with, rather than have a big meal and banquet with a fattened calf and hate the people you're eating with. A hot-tempered man stirs up dissension. Excuse me. A hot-tempered man stirs up dissension, but a patient man calms a quarrel. The way of the sluggard is blocked with thorns, but the path of the upright is a highway. A wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish man despises his mother. We basically read that at the beginning of this section. A lot of these proverbs are kind of the same thing, just stated slightly differently. The very first proverb in this section, Proverbs 10:1. A wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish son grief to his mother. A wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish man despises his mother. Folly delights a man who lacks judgment, but a man of understanding keeps a straight course. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. A man finds joy in giving an apt reply, and how good is a timely word? The path of life leads upward for the wise, to keep him from going down to the grave, or Sheol. The Lord tears down the proud man's house, but he keeps the widow's boundaries intact. The Lord detests the thoughts of the wicked, but those of the pure are pleasing to him. A greedy man brings trouble to his family, but he who hates bribes will live. The heart of the righteous weighs its answers. You think carefully about what you're going to say before you say it. But the mouth of the wicked gushes evil. You just speak and blurt out your folly. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous. A cheerful look brings joy to the heart, and good news gives health to the bones. He who listens, do you like being the bearer of good news, or do you like being the bearer of bad news? Do you like telling people what they can't do, what they're not going to do, what bad things are going to happen to them? Or do you like telling them the good news, things that will make them happy and delighted? He who listens to a life-giving rebuke will be at home among the wise. He who ignores discipline despises himself, but whoever heeds correction gains understanding. The fear of the Lord teaches a man wisdom, and humility comes before honor. To man belong the plans of the heart, but from the Lord comes the reply of the tongue. A man's ways seem innocent to him, but motives are weighed by the Lord. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and your plans will succeed. The Lord works out everything for his own ends, even the wicked for a day of disaster. Sometimes the wicked go on and on and on in their wickedness, and it seems like God's not doing anything about it. But maybe, just maybe, he has his own end in mind and is working the wicked along to a day of disaster. Sooner or later, God will have his day. It may not be according to our timing. In fact, a lot of times it isn't. But sooner or later, God will have his day. The Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. Through love and faithfulness, sin is atoned for. Through the fear of the Lord, a man avoids evil. When a man's ways are pleasing to the Lord, he makes even his enemies live at peace with him. Better a little with righteousness than much gain with injustice. In his heart a man plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps. The lips of a king speak an oracle, and his mouth should not betray justice. Now Solomon was a king, and he was presumably speaking to his son, who was also going to be a king someday. So he has a lot of instructions about how a king should behave. Honest scales and balances are from the Lord. All the weights in the bag are of his making. So they would carry their weights and their scales in their bags as they traveled on, these traveling merchants as they traveled around. And all the weights in the bag are of his making. Kings detest wrongdoing, for a throne is established through righteousness. Kings take pleasure in honest lips. They value a man who speaks the truth. A king's wrath is a messenger of death, but a wise man will appease it. The king had the right to put you to death if he felt angry with you. If you were wise, you were going to appease him. When a king's face brightens, it means life. His favor is like a rain cloud in spring. Again, there's a cluster of them that are all kind of part of a unit there, a bunch of king proverbs. How much better to get wisdom than gold to choose understanding rather than silver. Now, Solomon will eventually fall prey to the temptation of gold and silver. We're going to read about that. We read about that already, actually, in Kings and Chronicles. Solomon did not always resist the temptation to collect great quantities of gold and silver. He would eventually succumb to that temptation, even though he knew better. In Ecclesiastes, when he at the end of his life and reflects on his life, he'll say that he knew better. He did anyway. He wanted to know what it was like. He had to know what it was like. The highway, but we're going to get to Ecclesiastes later. The highway of the upright avoids evil. He who guards his way guards his life. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Better to be lowly in spirit and among the oppressed than to share plunder with the proud. Whoever gives heed to instruction prospers, and blessed is he who trusts in the Lord. The wise in heart are called discerning, and pleasant words promote instruction. Understanding is a fountain of life to those who have it, but folly brings punishment to fools. A wise man's heart guides his mouth, and his lips promote instruction. Pleasant words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. There is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. Going down the wrong road, the path that leads to folly. The laborer's appetite works for him. His hunger drives him on. He needs the money to buy food, so he works to get the money so that he can use that money to buy food. A scoundrel plots evil, and his speech is like a scorching fire. A perverse man stirs up dissension, and a gossip separates close friends. A violent man entices his neighbor, and leads him down a path that is not good. He who winks with his eye is plotting perversity. So he has 50 eyes somehow. Something about his eyes indicates he's plotting something. He who purses his lips is bent on evil. Gray hair, old age in other words, is a crown of splendor. It is attained by a righteous life. So all those old people out there need to feel good that they've attained a righteous life. Better a patient man than a warrior, a man who controls his temper than one who takes the city. Solomon was a man of peace. That's what Solomon means, in fact, is peace. He was not a man of war. And he prioritized peace and diplomacy over war-making. The lot is cast into the lap. Its every decision is from the Lord. I don't know if that means that they would throw their lots into their laps. I'm not sure exactly. Or if it's figurative, saying your lot's been cast. I don't know. But at any rate, the decision comes from the Lord. Better a dry crust with peace and quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. So better eat old and dry and crusty bread if you have peace and quiet in your house, than good and luscious and luxurious bread full of feasting if you have strife in your house. A wise servant will rule over a disgraceful son, and will share the inheritance as one of the brothers. I'm not entirely certain what that proverb is referring to. I guess it means that the servant will be adopted as a son, and the disgraceful son will be kicked out of the family, disowned. I guess what it means. There actually was not a provision in the law for servants to take the son's inheritances. But I'm assuming the idea is here that if you're a foolish son, and you continue in your foolishness, eventually your father will disown you and give your inheritance to his servant, if his servant is wise. I'm guessing that's the meaning here. The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, that's how they purified silver and gold. But the Lord tests the heart. So silver is tested in the crucible, and gold is tested in the furnace, but the heart is tested by the Lord. A wicked man listens to evil lips. A liar pays attention to a malicious tongue. He who mocks the poor shows contempt for their Maker, because God made the poor as well as the rich. Whoever gloats over disaster will not go unpunished. Children's children, the grandchildren, are a crown to the age. Another old age is great proverb here. And parents are the pride of their children. Arrogant lips or eloquent lips are unsuited to a fool. How much worse lying lips to a ruler. A bribe is a charm to the one who gives it. Wherever he turns, he succeeds. Again, that's not an instruction for life. is simply an observation of life. He who covers over an offense promotes love. So someone who is willing to forgive and forget. Someone who is willing to not hold an offense against the offender. But whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. That was someone who just continuing the offense. A rebuke impresses a man of discernment. More than 100 lashes impress a fool. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. An evil man is, by the way, they couldn't do 100 lashes. They could only do 40. In practice, they did 40 minus 1. So 100 is a lot. Even by their day, their brutal, barbaric, corporal punishment day, 100 lashes was more than twice as what they're supposed to give. An evil man is bent only on rebellion. A merciless official will be sent against him. Better to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than a fool in his folly. And there are very few things you'd rather less come upon than a bear robbed of her cubs. Very few things that are more of an oh no moment than a bear robbed of her cubs coming after you. But better to meet that than meet a fool in his folly. If a man pays back evil for good, evil will never leave his house. Starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam. So drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. Fix that dam before it breaks. Stop the quarrel before it becomes a problem, before the dispute breaks out. Acquitting the guilty and condemning the innocent, the Lord detests them both. Of what use is money in the hand of a fool, since he has no desire to get wisdom? A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A man lacking in judgment strikes hands in pledge, and puts up security for his neighbor. So again, don't enter into an agreement like that sort of proverb. He who loves a quarrel loves sin. He who builds a high gate invites destruction. So you're ready for a fight. You're prepared for a fight. You've got yourself gated for a fight, and you're just inviting your own destruction to do that, if you do that. To have a fool for a son brings grief. There is no joy for the father of a fool. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. A wicked man accepts a bribe in secret to pervert the course of justice. A discerning man keeps wisdom in view, but a fool's eyes wander to the ends of the earth. A foolish son brings grief to his father, and bitterness to the one who bore him. That would be, of course, his mother. It is not good to punish an innocent man, or to flog officials for their integrity. I would hope not. I would hope not. If you do that, you're a wicked ruler, I would have to say. A man of knowledge uses words with restraint, and a man of understanding is even-tempered. He doesn't fly off the handle at a small offense. Even a fool will thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue.